Hi, I am Erin Quill, and I am here for MAM's theater panel. So I'm very delighted to host this panel because, of course, it is mixed Asian artists and how talented they are and how brilliant they are, and we want to acknowledge that and celebrate it. And honestly, I know at least half this panel really well. So this will be a fun discussion for me. If you don't know me, I am Erin Quill. I was in the original Broadway company of Avenue Q. And I also have this blog called The Fairy Princess Diaries, which has advocated for Asian Americans, mixed race Americans, gay Americans, like the whole bit. If there's an issue to talk about, I usually write about it. So I don't want to spend too much time on me. I want to get started with my panel. First up, we have Ewoldt. Yay! Allie is the first Asian American to play Christine in The Phantom of the Opera on Broadway, and currently she is playing Little Mary Sunshine at the Muni. Yay!
Hello.
Hello. Next up is Troy Iwata. He was last seen on Broadway in Be More Chill, which was a very brilliant little show. And then now he is in a movie that is coming out called Summoning Sylvia. So welcome, Troy.
Thank you. Hello.
Hello to all your microphone reverb. Next up is Megan Haley. Megan Masako Haley. I'm sorry, Megan. And she is currently on the national tour of Mean Girls. Yay! And last but certainly not least, and actually the person I've known the longest in my life, Ms. Oliva Oguma. Olivia was the first Asian American baby Cosette in Les Miserables. She was on Broadway in Mamma Mia. She's in shows all the time. I can't keep up, but right now she is in Letters of Suresh at Second Stage Theater, which is just opening up. So welcome to this very talented panel. I'm very excited to talk to you. For those who may be battling with visual impairment, I will say that we are all of medium skin tone and we all have dark hair. We are all seated comfortably and we look like the world's most amenable family dinner. So why don't we start with a question that I always enjoy, which is let's get to know our panel just a little bit. So Allie, how did you get into theater? Because everybody's
Yes, indeed. Let's see. I grew up about 45 minutes north of New York City, small town of Pleasantville, actually too small to be a town, the village of Pleasantville. And I had the good fortune of being able to see Broadway shows when I was a kid. My mom's eldest sister, my Tita Myrna, would loan us her VHSs of all the movie musicals, and then took me to my first Broadway show, which was A Chorus Line when I was 8. Which in retrospect, probably a little too young to be watching A Chorus Line. And then I did one professional show as a child. It was the Yeston Copit Phantom at the Westchester Broadway Theater. And I had this really amazing high school musical theater teacher who was my voice teacher from age 10. And Dr. Renato Villatino, who has made us always promise to give him all the credit and 10%. And I am way behind on the 10%, but Doc, you get all the credit. And so he really just kind of shepherded me through, learning how to sing musical theater. He, believed in me and gave me my first parts. My first role in high school was Kate Lilly in Kiss Me Kate. And then, of course, senior year, I did Tuptim and King and I, because, and then I went to Yale University. I was a psychology major and liberal arts program, but performing all the time, taking voice lessons. And I call that my denial phase. And then I happened to find an agent. I was performing in The Marriage of Figaro with the graduate program, Yale School of Music. And they needed an extra soprano for a small role. And so I did that. And somebody who came to see it, who knew someone in the production, happened to be a New York agent, said, "Hey, Allie sounds like she could also sing musical theater." He said, "Actually, that's what she's interested in." And so as luck would have it, they took me on. I went and auditioned for them. And my first professional job was as the Jasmine understudy / body double in the Aladdin show at Disneyland.
I'm obsessed with that. I probably saw you in that. I knew so many people in that company. Can't even. Troy, how did you jump into musical theater?
I blame my older brother. He did theater starting in like middle school, and I was always super shy. And then junior year of high school, my junior year, we're doing the Wizard of Oz, and my brother. Oh, and I have audio issue. Can you not hear me?
No, I can hear you twice.
Oh,
It's
well,
like you're in.
what
It's
on
like
earth?
you're in Dolls. You know, like Tony Two Times or whatever. What was that movie? There was like the gangster always says everything twice. Like what? Forget about it.
Let me see if I can fix this.
Okay, so we'll move on. Megan, Troy. We'll circle back to Troy and we'll hear it all again. Megan, how did you get into theater?
I've been singing since I can remember. I really was into the Spice Girls and Britney Spears, and so I, very young, decided I wanted to be a pop star. And then when I was 12, I saw a children's production of The Music Man, and that's when I realized that musical theater is how 12-year-olds got audiences. And so I thought, hey, this is where I'm supposed to be. So I started doing children's theater. I had a really awesome children's theater in my hometown in San Jose, California. I didn't decide that I was going to do it as a job until my mom got really drunk at a children's theater gala and won a trip to New York, one paid for, bid on. And so we went to go see. Oh, you have a friend? Hi,
Liam. Hi.
Anyway, but I went to go see In the Heights on Broadway, and I just thought it was so. I feel like I went into the theater feeling like sad and angry, and like when I left, I just felt softer. And I didn't know anything about this community. I didn't know anything about the writers, or I don't speak Spanish. I didn't understand a lot of it, but I just felt like this is what I need to do with my life. So went and got my BFA and moved to New York City, got an agent from my showcase. I actually, fun fact, I got my equity card was because Ali Ewoldt dropped out of King and I.
How dare you, Allie? What do you think?
It worked out perfectly. How great.
I was truly probably their 10th choice.
No, don't say that.
I know this. Truly, me also shocked, never even considered myself like barely a soprano. So that was my first job. So grateful for the opportunity to expand.
Pay it forward, Ms. Ewoldt.
But thank you so much, Allie. I really appreciate it.
I kind of love that. Troy, how are you with your sound?
Oh my gosh, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Do I sound better? Okay, thank God.
Better. Okay.
All right. So my story, my origin story. I was saying that I blame my older brother for me becoming an actor because he did drama starting in middle school, and I was always shy. I didn't do anything. I had no friends. And then our junior year of high school, we were doing The Wizard of Oz, and my brother came up to me and said, "You have to audition. You don't have any friends, and you'll make friends this way." Mm-hmm. And so I auditioned for it. I blacked out. I don't remember it. But I got the Scarecrow because I lived in a small town, so it was just like, we need guys. So if you have a penis, you can be in the show. And
you can always be in the show if you have a penis.
Always be in the show if you have a penis. That's the
maybe
secret.
Not Sound of Music, but other than that, really, yeah.
And so doing that show was, I don't explain it as like, oh, this is how I learned that I wanted to like be an actor. It's how I learned that, oh, these are like my people. These are the people that I understand and that I want to be around. And I knew that I wanted to be a part of like this theatrical world. And so after that, that was just a direction to go in. So I majored in theater in college, literally still not really thinking like, oh, I want to do this as a job. It was just like, this is the only thing that brings me joy in any way. So I'll just like keep going until it doesn't work out. And we're still here and it's still working out, thank goodness. So just keep going until it stops.
Absolutely. Okay, Olivia, you have kind of like everybody else kind of did a stumble into it, but you as a child actor really have like an interesting how I got started story. So take it away.
So I actually started as a child model, an extremely successful child model. kidding. Not well.
Yeah.
I was very successful. I was on a textbook. Okay, like I mean, this shit was real. So
And the talk show where you were in the
oh
beak.
yes, the beak. I was terrorized by Regis and Kathy Lee. I was dressed like a bumblebee. It was for a Halloween episode. They kept calling me the little Oriental bumblebee. It was like I know, but it was also like it was like in the 80s, and I think they didn't know that wasn't good. Like I don't know. I don't even think. Anyway, it was. I shouldn't even give away when it was because, like, I'm 20, clearly. So
I've seen this clip though, and it's kind of amazing because she's a bumblebee, and then all of a sudden she just like bursts into tears.
Because there's a story there. Like, obviously, I was triggered by Regis coming down the stairs dressed like a cow, and he said "boo," and then I cried. So it's just very important to note that, like, I was like 2, and that was scary. But prior to that moment, I was great. You know, I did the buzz, I had a little flower, and like I was on point. And then it all went to hell when he scared me. And then I screamed and they had to go get my mom. And then they were like, you know, you scared the little Oriental bumblebee. They said that like 3 times. And then they went to get my mom. And then it was like this thing where it was like this poor little bumblebee got terrorized. And then, yeah, and then luckily, that didn't end my career. I actually was on Sesame Street. When I was on Sesame Street, they wouldn't let me talk because I was like too little and I had like no teeth. But so I just ran around wearing this like sweater that had geometric shapes on it, and I was always just really encouraging of like all the other kids. Like they would be like, you know, we're gonna go like spell the alphabet, and I would be like. And like run off. And then finally one time they did let me speak, and that was a really great day for me. But I didn't know what camera to look at. So I kind of like there were 3 cameras. I looked at every single one. So that was great. And then, you know, at some point I started doing theater. This is about theater, right?
Well, by 6, right? Because when were you Cosette? When were you baby Cosette?
Well, I was baby Cosette in 1994, but my like first like equity job was the Christmas Carol at Madison Square Garden, where they where they put me in a blonde wig, and they were just like, okay, and so I was just like. Right, I was just like running around in this blonde wig at Madison Square Garden, and then I went into Les Mis, and I at that point I had done a lot of like commercials and TV stuff in Sesame Street, and then that was how it got started. But like my dream was to be in the Secret Garden. Like I really wanted to be in the Secret Garden, but that wasn't happening. So I settled. Just kidding. But I got to be young. I got to be young Cosette. Yeah, and that was cool. And then after that, I kind of started doing more theater, I guess, because of that. Yeah, and that's pretty much the story. That's my story. And I think it was all downhill from there. Pretty much my work as the Bumblebee and as young Cosette pretty much was the, you know, now we're just, nothing compares, you know, to that.
Totally up there.
People,
important. I think it's important to note that Olivia's mom was a professional ballet dancer.
Yes.
And that is why she started so young. I know that with my son, just because of what I do, I get a lot of calls, and that's how he got an agent, because they were like, "You have a kid, right?" And I was like,
yeah. I mean, yeah, I was also like, I think I was kind of like discovered by a modeling agency, but she also obviously has like super like stage mom tendencies because of her being a professional ballet dancer. So like she was very like okay about the whole thing. And and I can't dance, so you know, she wanted me to try, and it was like not a good idea. So
okay.
yeah. So that's it. You know, that's everything. Thanks for coming to the panel.
Thanks for our TED Talk.
I'm gonna go now.
Stop it! You dressed up for it. So my next question is, what's the thing that you enjoy most as a musical theater artist? And we can start in the same order. Allie, what's the thing that you like most about being in this business? Because this business has some really dark moments, by the way.
It has some really dark moments. I'm so excited because right now, you know, we've been in the middle of this pandemic for a long time and working on Chicago at the Muni in St. Louis, which is where I am. This is the first I've done some like theater from home things, but this is the first theater in person thing that I've done since, you know, March of 2019. So it feels like 2020. What year are we in? What's today?
I don't know. I feel like we're all in the back of the bar. Smokey said, like, remember when we used to sing it?
In the olden days, 2020. That's what I meant. But what I love is, to answer your question, is actually getting to create a character. Getting to sort of like get into someone else's skin and figure out how they tick and why they do what they do. And I'm a major nerd for source material. I'm reading all of these books about like the real women that Chicago was based on and all of the reporters during that time, and trying to like delve into all of that stuff and to really get to learn about different people, and then to get to sort of share my knowledge with an audience that maybe doesn't know, and then hopefully get some empathy, get some laughs, get some catharsis out there, and have a communal experience.
Yeah. And we should say that the fact that you are doing Little Mary Sunshine, which is normally played by a man in drag, is a big deal. Possibly if you're not in theater, you don't realize what a big deal it is. But it is such kind of like a breakthrough, because it used to be played, not that the individual actors played it this way, but it used to be played for a gag. That the character sings soprano and then all of a sudden rips off his dress and is like, don't trust what you see, right? In a very kind of old theatery way.
Exactly. Like it was meant to be like the vaudeville, and it was like surprise, it's not what you thought. But when they wrote the show, that worked. But now, in the time when we understand drag queens, we understand trans folks, we understand all of these things in a different way. It just doesn't necessarily read the same way. And so I love that in this scenario, we're treating Mary Sunshine as a person that has a duality, that has, multiple faces, but it's not necessarily like, oh, he, it's a woman, or we thought it was a woman, but really it's a man in a dress singing high. But also this production is doing wonderful things playing with gender. We have J. Harrison G, who played Lola in Kinky Boots here at the Mooney, and on Broadway playing Velma. So there's that sort of, new spin there. And there's a lot of really, really beautiful casting that is kind of sort of pushing the ideas of, what we can do in musicals that existed before.
Right. And revisiting old classics in a fresh way, which is exciting.
Yeah.
Troy, how you doing with that reverb?
I feel like I've, conquered it. I feel you're comfortable here. Thank you for checking in.
Yeah. So what do you enjoy most about your journey as an artist?
It started off, I think I did convince myself that, we love creating things together, and you create this little family with people. And, I feel like I would be lying if I didn't say that, there's a big part of me that just really loves positive affirmation from strangers. And I think that that's just my little honest bit, but
you're really wonderful, Troy. You're awesome and very talented.
Thank you so much. Bye. There's something.
It reminds me of the line from Chicago when she's talking. She's like, and that show, we all go into it because we didn't get enough love in our childhood, and that's showbiz, kids.
I think there's something really there is something magical about creating something with other people out of nothing, but also being able to take a different audience every night on a journey and bring whatever they need, whether that's an escape or a distraction or just entertainment. There's an energy that you give them and that they give you, and there's something addicting about that. Because honestly, theater jobs, comfortable, good, non-stressful theater jobs, I don't really think exist. So it begs the question, why do we keep coming back? And I do think it's because of that creative energy that you have with your company, but also the exchange between the audience every night.
Megan, what have you experienced doing Mean Girls around the country in terms of audience give and take, and how does it fuel you? Does it exhaust you? What's your favorite part?
I love Mean Girls because the people who really love this show really love this show. And it's something to I think this is with every live theater experience. It's just it's never the same, because today isn't the same as yesterday, and I'm not the same as I was yesterday or tomorrow. And so you bring that into their space, and all the other people bring what they bring into the space, and then that's the experience you have, and it's just in that one moment. And I think that's really exciting, and I do wonder how it will feel to do theater again, and how it will feel different, because we're all different. now than we were 2 years ago. I mean, different now today than I was last week even, you know? And so I think that's really exciting. And then, getting to do the show all over the country, there are definitely different vibes in different cities of like what jokes land and what jokes do not land. You can kind of tell sometimes different cities' politics. But it's seriously such a joy to do it. And it's just such a fun sing and and someone's paying me to dance, which I still can't believe sometimes. But yeah, it's really great.
Well, that's good. So Miss Olivia, do you want to answer that question or do you want me to ask you another question?
About what it's like to be in Mean Girls?
No.
Thank you so much for asking. People forgot that I was also in the show. In my living room.
It hasn't. Your new show hasn't opened yet, has it?
Well, yeah, no, it not at all. And I'm a standby, so my experience backstage will be something can't wait to tell everyone about. Because I'm sure it'll just be me being nervous that I'm gonna have to go on. So I don't know I don't know exactly what's the best question for me to answer.
I think what I would like to hear from you. What is because you've been in this honestly the longest.
Yes.
Of all of us. And
even though I'm 20.
Even though you're 17.
Thank you so much.
You're 17 new here today. Absolutely.
Yes.
And and so what's it been like? How has the business changed from when you were, relatively aware of what show business was to now? Like, perception. Do you think there's more opportunity now? Do you think there's do you think any of this diversity push that has happened the last couple of years, do you think that's made a difference in your audition opportunities? Like, where do you think it's all landed?
I feel like there is a lot of change happening now, but I also feel like there was a time, there were certain shows that actually were ahead of the curve and they kind of didn't get any recognition. Like when I was in Les Mis in 1995, we had Black people in the show, we had Latino people in the show, we had Asian people in the show. And I kind of feel like it's just, we were talking like I was growing up to be a Latina woman as young Cosette. Like we're talking about like, we had like people who were growing up, playing young Cosette, and then the older Cosette was like a completely different, ethnicity. And like, it was just kind of how it was. And it was 1995. And when everything started happening in the past 2 years where there was a lot more conversation about it, I kind of found myself occasionally like on these Facebook threads where I would be like, I just want to point this out. Not that it means that everything was great in 1995, but I actually feel like what we're seeing right now is just kind of like more of that. But there were things happening, and it was so funny because when it was happening, I didn't know it was a big deal. Like I know now that I'm the first Asian young Cosette. At the time, I didn't. You know what I mean? Right. I went in the audition. I got the job. I got there. The other young Cosette was Latina. Like it was just like there were other Asian people in the show. We had a Madam T who was African American. Like I didn't think, oh my gosh, this is a thing. And then later I kind of realized, oh, that like was a thing. Like I was the first. I didn't know that. And I started to see more young Cosettes come in who were Asian. And I was like, oh, I had no idea. I had people come up to me and be like, oh, you were the first one. And I didn't think I could audition for the show because it was set in France. And then I saw you and I was like, oh, that's cool. But I think what's changing right now is I think that people are seeing, they're seeing kind of less of that myopic idea of like what certain shows need to look like. Because it's, when we have a new show and it's diverse, it's like, yeah, it should be. You have a show that's set in modern day LA, what that, but I'm really happy when I see a show that's like a show that you normally wouldn't think that people who look like us could be in and we're playing leads in it. That's what I think is, because as much as we want new work, there's still going to be, the classics are still going to be done. Like Allie being in 1776, like that is something that we should be like, that's great. So it's that stuff too, I think is important because at the end of the day, no pun intended.
You're another day older.
You're another day older.
No,
even though I'm 17.
We're not getting any older. I'm sorry.
Yeah. But I guess I don't know what I'm saying, but I'm saying that I really do appreciate when we kind of get to go into those spaces where we normally weren't included and be there. And that's exciting to me as well. And I see that change more now. Like I see that happening, and that makes me very excited. And I also feel like we're in a place now where we're able to kind of, oh, is there an echo? I'm hearing an echo.
Now there is, yeah.
Okay. Is it going away?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry. I feel like we're also in a place now where we're having more open conversations about it, and the rooms are more open to discuss. And I like that as well. I didn't used to feel like I could literally say, hey, I don't think there's enough diversity in this room. And now I actually feel like I actually can say that, and people will listen. You know, and also the conversation of, I've heard, well, I just don't know anyone, like from a director, like, oh, I only know white people, so that's why this room looks like this. Well, that's not a good enough excuse.
Right.
And like, ask me, and like, I'll give you some names.
Oh, I think half of what
like,
we do is give people names.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a burden in some respects, because it's like, listen, I don't have the time to give you 20 names, emails, and phone numbers right now, but you know, I'll get back to you as soon as I can.
Right.
List. But I always follow it up with, please have your people think before you do a blanket, like, hey, I don't know any. Like,
yeah. You really, you do, because you watch TV, you see shows, you might need to do some research and reaching out to some people, but to literally say, I don't know any Asian people, it's like, that's not accurate.
Oh yeah, that, that is not accurate. And you know, what's interesting to me as kind of the elder statesman here, is that how many, so like the majority of my friends, I have a lot of actor friends, but I have a lot of, friends who are showrunners and producers and writers. Like, really, I tend to gravitate towards writers. And we would have like some sort of screening party, and we'd be in the room, and like they'd talk to me about their problems with casting. And I always thought, like, you're asking me, you know what I do, you know the level at which I do it, but you're not calling anybody in that looks vaguely like me. Like, you don't have to call me, because we're friends, and I know that's complicated. But really, I mean, the first time, so my friend Alan Liu, who some of you may know, he was in Flower Drum Song on Broadway. He was on a television show, and that television show, up until when he was on, had no Asians on it. And they did a storyline where he was like the main guest star, and it was like, and that showrunner was a friend of mine, and I wrote him a letter, and I said, I think you don't understand what you did today, but I have to thank you on behalf of the larger community. I said, I know you don't get a lot of like feedback that's so specific like this, but I want you to know that our numbers are so ill represented on national television. That what you did was you took a stand, and I want to make sure that you feel acknowledged by taking that stand and making him such a prominent part of that show. And not just him, because obviously if you have one Asian, you're going to have more. So, you know, like that you helped set him in a responsible manner, and you made him like an actual character. It was really a well done. I don't want to out the showrunner, but it was like a really important moment for me to acknowledge to him, because I did have access. Do you know what I'm saying? But I did feel like when I was out in LA for so long, even though I did all the showcases, I did all the network showcases, you know, I was featured so much that everybody was for sure like convinced I was on a show. They just didn't know about it. That LA was really tough, because the business was so set against it. And now I see it so flipped. Like, if they don't have enough diversity, they can get yanked for that. And that is such a remarkable change from my decade there, coming in and being like, yeah, well, we didn't want you. I mean, there was one show that it was a long running show. It was a CBS show. It ran for like, I think it's actually still on. But I came in, I was supposed to be a goth chick, Asian goth chick. I came in, I was dressed up, I had bangs, I had 2 little ponytails and a choker. And the person cast was a white girl who, by the way, wore literally my exact same outfit on every show. And I remember watching it being like, okay, because I had been part of their diversity push, and that had been an opportunity that I had been not offered, but like had come in for. And I was like, well, what was it about me? Was it that, did I not do something enough? Or did they just like the look and they didn't like the performance? You know, it was a mind-blowing conversation to have with oneself. So Allie, you are actually one of our top, well, you may be the top, but I don't want to get into a war with Ashley Park. What? We're just being real here. Our Asian American leading ladies, would you say? I would say.
I would say that.
I mean,
Yeah.
I just
Vote,
think I've
panel
been really,
vote. Hands up. If
Yes.
They're
Yes.
friends. Thanks, friends. Thank you, friends.
So what do you look for when you're accepting a role? Like, obviously you did Phantom, you're doing Little Mary Sunshine. So right now, Little Mary Sunshine is definitely a featured, big, meaty role. What are you looking for in your next Broadway show?
I mean, I love the idea that I get some choice and I get to do. I'm not there yet. I wish I were. No, I mean, honestly, at this point, a lot of the times it's like I can work. Somebody wants to hire me to do things, which, you know, hopefully someday that will not be what it is, but still kind of feels like my reality. But I think one of the things that I appreciate so much about a place like the Muni, where this is my 4th time working here, and I've gotten to do Philia and Forum, Martha Jefferson in 1776, and now Mary Sunshine in Chicago, is that I think because they knew me from doing West Side Story here first, but then they've been able to sort of break me out of whatever box I usually get put into, which is a lovely box. It's the, like, you know, the ingenue soprano, brunette, curly hair box, which is totally fine and has
that's a Tiffany
been very
box.
generous.
It's lovely.
It's a lovely box.
Right.
But it's so exciting to, just a tiny spoiler, if anyone out there happens to be in St. Louis, I apologize, and you're planning to come to the show, but my Mary Sunshine gets to be kind of a monster, like has like a lovely front facing persona and actually is this like a horrible boss behind the scenes. And we blocked it yesterday, and just the idea that I got to be really terribly cruel as an actor, I mean, not in real life, but was really exciting. It was exciting to get to, you know, to expand on things, to play a blonde, like a dumb blonde in Forum, or to play Martha Jefferson, a historical character who's singing about, you know, having relations with her husband. Like anything that really gets to challenge me in a new way, I find exciting. And then on the flip side, you know, with something like Les Mis or a Phantom, the idea of going into a role and trying to kind of delve in the same way, to find the humanity, to find how I can connect to it, to find how, you know, my personal background can connect to that character as well, I think is also a lovely challenge.
Great. Yeah. Troy, do you pull from your background a lot when you go into a new part, or do you go into it like blank and you just make it up as you go? Like, what's
the latter? Because I think the majority of my career has without sounding too cliche, has been a where do we sort of put you sort of place. And I will say most of my first jobs, I was fortunate enough to get jobs where my ethnicity did not play a part in it. And but also it was sort of colorblind casting, so it didn't really feel like an opportunity to like thoroughly bring something cultural to the forefront of it, because it was just like a mishmash of different kinds of people. It wasn't until, honestly, I did a Netflix show called Dash and Lily,
which everyone should watch. It's amazing. It's really exciting and awesome.
Thank you. It's a Christmas TV show, or a holiday TV show, so you can watch it now, sure. But that was the first time that I was actually cast, where the main character, I played Lily's older brother, and Lily was played by the very brilliant Midori Francis, who is an up and rising star. You should check her out. And it was about our family, who was a mixed race family, half Japanese, half white family. And that was legitimately the first time in my career that I was actually asked to present how I identify. And it was a really, really beautiful, wonderful experience. And as far as all my other jobs, like Be More Chill, that was just it was an honor in itself to be able to play. I understudied like 3 of the roles, and so it was fun that it didn't matter, and you know, it was just this modern day story set in New Jersey, just about kids living their life, and you know, sometimes the stars aligned, and there was one time that I went on, and it just so happened that all 4 of the leads were of Asian descent, and so that was a really special moment. It was really cool, especially when we all like bowed at the end together. And that was another show like Mean Girls that has some really, really devout fans. And
Yes.
So
yes,
it was really cool, specifically on that night, just to see the few Asian faces out there, and some people they were crying, and it sort of hit that, oh, this is actually a really special thing that we didn't even realize would mean so much to some people. So
I think you had a cast member that tweeted that out at the time.
It was George Salazar, because George
Yeah.
Salazar does all the social media.
Right. And I just for the show.
In life.
And just in life, right.
Yeah.
Right. The thing that is always interesting to me as a parent, because I think I'm the only one here that's a parent, although I don't know, is that I look for diversity when I choose what to bring my son to. He's fortunate, same as Allie, same as Olivia, same as myself, to be growing up within proximity to Manhattan. So he has the opportunity to see a lot of diverse theater. So he's been to like SpongeBob. He was at Once on This Island. He's been to a lot of shows that are like appropriate. He's been to Hamilton, which is not entirely appropriate, but he loves so much. And to just see his face when he sees people on stage that look like him is a magical, magical moment. So, you know, don't keep in mind, it is when people kind of toss it off and say, well, it's for the kids. It really is for children.
Yeah.
It's for their mind to see the possibility of what could be, as opposed to when I was young, back in the Stone Age, there weren't any. There really weren't. And so to even I as an audience member, to be able to go to the show and see Allie or Troy or Megan or Olivia, that's like huge for me. I remember, Olivia, I went to see you in a play. What was that play where you were in space?
Oh, Hello from the Children of Planet Earth.
Right. And like how kind of amazing. There was another performer that was of Asian descent in that.
There were actually 3 of us. It was John Hosh, me, and Jeffrey O'Mara.
Right. And and it was really, I just felt like moved. And then I was like, am I being moved because I really like the play, or am I being moved because there are people up there that look like me that are doing the play? And it was probably 50-50, you know?
We actually talked a lot about that at talkbacks and stuff, because I was like, oh, I never thought like Jeff and I would work together and we wouldn't be playing siblings. Like, I mean, also I was playing an inanimate object. I was like literally a space person. Like I was not a human, but it was really interesting because it was not like we had 3 Asian people on stage and it wasn't about anybody being Asian. And especially in plays, usually in a new play, if you have 3 Asian people on stage, they're going to talk about it at some point. So it was, and then so that was cool. That was really cool, actually. Yeah.
So Megan, how is Mean Girls? I know it's diverse. I know it's like inclusive. So what's it like being part of this larger conversation of representation as you sing and dance your way across the country? Like, do little kids come up to you and be like, I saw you and I love you and I'm going to go to dance lessons?
I mean, it's really weird, but sometimes they really do. And it is so special because I remember like being one of those kids, and like, actually, I think like sometime last year when, you know, a lot of theater companies were dealing with like, oh, maybe we've done problematic casting in the past, or my children's theater, we had like a panel where alum from the children's theater came back and talked, and I just had like this recovered memory of like, okay, first of all, my children's theater did Miss Saigon.
Of course, that's appropriate. Absolutely, that's so appropriate for children.
Yeah. So okay. Just know that. And there's 2 casts, you know, tons of kids. One of the Kims was white, one of the Kims was Asian. And the night that I happened to go see it when I was 14, I saw the Asian Kim. And I just remember that was such a huge moment of like, oh, like I could be the star of a show. I could be like the main part. And I remember also that I had seen King and I at this theater company, and I just like did not realize it was set in Asia. Because like no one was
I mean, go ahead, go on.
I mean,
Sorry,
like,
I'm trying to pretend I'm
my
like
sister
therapy.
was in it, so like, I knew my sister was Asian, but like the top Tim wasn't. So like I don't think I really thought of it. I just thought it was a good play, you know, like the
Right.
there's singers and there's dancing and it was pretty and like I don't know.
And the bowing didn't tip you off, or like
I mean like I don't know. I was a little kid. But I just think of like if my mom had bought tickets for like a different night, like if my life would have been different because
like if you had seen the White Kim.
Yeah, well, I don't know if I would have run big enough.
She might have run screaming out of the theater.
Then you would have been like, if you had seen the White Kim, you wouldn't be in theater.
Honestly, I mean, I don't
Probably not. I'm just so glad you got to see that Asian This story is just breaking my heart.
Yeah, and like, and little Asian girls do come up to me after the show sometimes, and like it feels like a huge, like something like I don't know if I deserve to like be that person for you. I don't know what to do with that sometimes, but I'm so glad that like there's Ashley Park, and like I literally, honestly, Erin, I think I cited your blog in a college paper that I
actually am in a couple of textbooks now.
Oh, good. I mean, I believe it.
Which is really odd to read. But yes, apparently, yes, go on.
No, but I was just like, I wrote a paper about Ann Harada in college. And I think I wrote about Asian Americans in general and theater. And I can't remember the exact paper, but I'm pretty sure I cited your blog.
Probably.
Also, like Anne was so funny and like loud and singing big notes that like just felt so right to me. So like I know that for myself, seeing Asian women just do awesome things on stage was so huge. So hopefully I can do that. I don't know. Hopefully Mean Girls can do that.
Do you think that it is because we are mixed that we gravitate to, like, that there's a side of you, not that we want to pick sides, but is there a part of, like, for me, I've seen that, like, sometimes I really do get very shy and I get very, like in my head and I don't want to talk. And then I kind of like my Irish side that's really gregarious is like, come on, Quill. And, like I get very, I'm like, okay, it's not time. I got it. And I do think that if I 100% had been of Asian descent, that I probably wouldn't have written the blog, because a lot of my kind of defiance comes from my Irish side, which is made up of like IRA members and very tough Irish people, very, very tough protesting Irish people. And so I think that had a lot to do with why I say something and also the way I say something. Do you think any of you being of mixed descent has influenced your career in that way, like informed how you present yourself and then people, like how you allow people in?
I think so. I mean, I think at the very least, like it's opened a lot of doors. I at one point when I was doing Phantom was like, I'm like a gateway ethnic person. I sort of am of, because I'm mixed. Like it's a little ambiguous, but hopefully then you get that foot in the door and wedge. And I think that we all sort of have this this gift of being able to be bridges and being able to kind of connect cultures because they live inside us constantly, right? Like we always understand what it's like to be of different worlds, and thus can sort of help other people kind of find that for themselves too, hopefully.
Olivia?
I feel like we only have a little bit of time. So for me to start talking about this is really tricky because people mostly do not know that I'm not fully Japanese. So I'm in and well, also because my mom's part Asian. So I have, which I don't know if people know that, but she is.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So basically she's only part white. So I have I've been in a lot of scenarios where people have started talking about mixed race people and they don't know. So I have like, that's a whole other thing to get into that I don't even want to begin, but it's interesting.
Undercover spy.
Oh yeah, like I've had people who who I know very well, and then I'm like, oh wow, So I have like, I do feel like because my family is so Japanese, like I currently only have like one family member in the States. I do feel like being like, just my difference in how I am is mostly, I feel like, just tied to like being a native New Yorker and being American more. Like I do feel like, yeah, if I were raised there, I would be completely different, and I know that. But I do think that like it is an interesting thing to have yeah, to have those two. I definitely think it has made me more like outspoken and made me more assertive in some ways, having like the mother that I have. Definitely. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I always equate it to, like, my dad was an attorney, and he was a union attorney. He was really tough, like really tough. And he was white. And I always say, well, I grew up adjacent to privilege. Like, I don't have white privilege, but I grew up knowing what it looked like and seeing people able to access it. So what gets me, riled mostly is looking at something and being like, that's not the way one should be treated, just based on the way somebody looks. Like, no, I'm not going to stand for that. Absolutely not. And so that's kind of my jumping in point to the conversation, which is maybe a little bit in your face, but it's worked so far. Troy, do you have anything you want to say?
I would just completely mirror everything that Allie said. I think she stated it really beautifully, especially us sort of being bridges of the gap. And I loved what you said about sort of kicking the door open and being a wedge to allow, other people to pass through. I think that's a really beautiful metaphor. So that's all I have to say.
Megan, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what you just said too, and like I think the idea of like being the wedge and like bringing people up with you, and then finding for myself now in the future being like, it's also on me to be the one that also speaks out when you see stuff, and that like I have been afforded some sort of adjacency privilege too, of being like, I need to call this out when I see it. White people aren't necessarily threatened or put off by that necessarily just because of like what I look like, or because I'm like American.
Right.
Too. I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah, it's I mean, I'm older than all of you, so it's been a different journey for me, but I am really pleased to see how kind of smoothly everybody seems to be navigating this new interpretation of the world, and like how gracefully you all are handling everything, despite possibly feeling, imposter syndrome, or feeling like, like Allie feeling like she's never going to get another show again, which is ridiculous. It's that's part of it, right? Because this is all relatively new. When I graduated college a million years ago, this I was like it. Was like the only. And I did a play with Anne Harada, I think 2 years after I was out, 3 years after I was out. And like, she was possibly one of the first people I met, like that was, in any way similar to me. So yeah, it's a very, to see the growth and to see the progression is really interesting, because I'm not part of like the old crowd where there was absolutely nothing, but I'm not part of like the 20-year-old crowd that's like, oh my God, this is like amazing. You're amazing. And like, I'm so happy. It's like, can I Snapchat you? Like, I don't know what that is. Okay. I have a blog. I don't know what that is. Anyway, like that's as far as I'm going. I'm not TikToking. I'm not Instagramming. Well, I am Instagramming, but mostly it's for my kid. So do you have any parting thoughts that you would like to leave our crowd with today about where you think the business is headed towards, and what your hopes are for it?
Go ahead.
I'm just really excited to feel empowered to not accept things just because they're offered, and to feel more comfortable like calling things out when they're racist or offensive.
Right.
I think that feels more acceptable that you can say that. More even like for me, I've been doing this, I don't know, for like almost 10 years, but I don't think I felt that way when I started.
No, and you also look young, so I can imagine that it was like a little intimidating when you first began, you know, to call it out, and, you know. Troy, you want to jump in there?
Well, I was just gonna say it's kind of hard to like depict where the industry is going to go, but I do think that, you know, it is ever changing, and I think also being a mixed actor, I've had to learn to just like roll with the punches of how I'm perceived by other people, and I just have to, you know, okay, and just deal with every day as it comes. I look forward to the idea of just more diversity and representation, both in front of the curtain, behind the curtain, in front, behind the casting table. I do think that sometimes it feels like it's like one step forward, two steps back, but I like to continue to tell myself that it's a very slow progression, but we're getting there.
It really is. If you knew what it was like when I first started, you would be like, this is light years beyond. Yeah. It's just so, it's amazing to see. And like Olivia knows too, because she started young. Allie, do you have any thoughts?
Yes. I mean, same to all of that, more diversity on all sides of this business. I think, you know, I'm always cheered and excited by the success of my fellow amazing panelists and all of the people that, you know, that I know, all of our colleagues and the kids coming up. And I think that I just want all of them to know that, you know, that we are rooting for you. There's a place for you in this business. And the more that we can have these conversations and kind of be open about these challenges and celebrate our wins, I think we will continue to make progress.
Absolutely. Olivia, you want to bring us home?
Yeah, I think just echoing what everyone else said too. And also, you know, we're coming out of a really crazy 2 years. Was it 2 years? Was it 1 year? I don't even know. And, you know, everyone, the fact that we're all even sitting here being able to talk about things that we're working on is awesome. And I think that's in itself, like, we are all Asian American mixed race actors who have jobs. So I think we as actors right now, and the fact that we can all say that is a really special thing coming out of what's happened to our industry in the past year. So I think, you know, moving forward, things are going to get better. We're still going to have to speak up. There's going to be the thing too, where everyone feels like they kind of did what they needed to do. So now they're just going to lay back and be like, but we cast her in that thing, remember?
Right. And now,
you know, so people are going to have to stay on top of stuff, because I do feel like there's a little bit of that. Everyone kind of feels like they did what they needed to do when they posted the thing on Instagram. You know what I mean? And I think there's going to have to be a push to keep it going forward and keep it going in a forward motion. But I do think right now we can celebrate the fact that we're, you know, Asian American actors who actually have jobs coming out of COVID. And I think that's something to celebrate.
I think that's huge. And I also want to just say for a minute, for those who are listening and or watching, you know, this business moves like an iceberg, right? And so all you see is the tip of the iceberg, but you don't realize that the iceberg underneath is like 8 times bigger and just looming and ready to sink a ship. And although you may look at certain projects and do what you think is necessary, which is like call it out for some, you know, some slight that you feel is wrong or right or whatever, you know, sometimes you have to be acknowledging the win that it took to get that project made. Sometimes the win is the first step. Sometimes the win is the wedge to get another win, and then another win, and then another win. And so I do want us to acknowledge that sometimes Southeast Asians and South Asians are a little less represented on our stages and screens. And I don't think we're at a perfect point in casting. I also don't think casting should be a DNA test. So even as much as everybody sometimes gets in an uproar about specific projects, I want to say that all of the fact that all 4 of you are working and employed, coming out of the years that we've come out of, is amazing and incredible. And I want to thank all my panelists. And I want you to look at this panel and think, this panel is a win. You know, even if you don't see your exact mix or your exact skin tone on this panel, just even the fact that this panel exists is a win. And I think that we have to acknowledge wins when they happen, because they don't always happen.
Yeah.
And so these people in front of you, this is the bottom of the iceberg. These are the people moving the iceberg along. These are the people sinking that ship, that white supremacy ship, and sending it to the bottom of the ocean, because they have hidden peaks and valleys, and they're cutting that mother right in the gut. So,
Love this metaphor.
been uplifting, right? All right. My name is Erin Quill. I want to thank my panelists, Troy Iwata, Ali Ewoldt, Oliva Oguma, Megan Masako Haley. And thank you, ma'am, for having us here and sharing this time with us. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.